course.
We're with Topeka High's newspaper stop, and we were wondering if you wanted to answer some questions about today's activities.
Well, certainly. What would you like to
Okay, it's mostly just like about why you're here today. It's not really like a political thing at all. Is it okay if we record this?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Sure.
Okay, so will you just start by introducing yourselves?
Yes.
So does all that? I don't want to. Does all that make sense?
And then, so why are you here today?
I'm here because I love my preborn neighbors, and I'm seeking to value them as myself, to love them as I love myself. And so I'm here to actually encourage people to vote no on the value of them both amendment, because I believe that it is an iniquitous amendment that will actually enshrine injustice in our own Constitution.
All right, and we've talked to some people who claim that they're pro-life who are actually saying to vote yes on the
I would not
BTV
be
bill.
surprised.
So can you talk to us about why voting no is essential to your message?
Well, God says the two greatest commandments of all are to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength, and to love our neighbor as ourselves. That includes the least of these, the preborn. Now, the value of them both amendment does not value them both equally. It does not give equal protection to children in the womb. These children are made in the image of God, just like we are, and yet because they are not born yet, they have been murdered in a Holocaust just in Kansas of over 6,000 a year for decades. And so we live in bleeding Kansas. It fits better now than it ever did during the time of slavery. And yet this amendment is not seeking to protect them. It does not protect children from being murdered.
So if we vote no on the value of them both,
right,
what does the future of abortion look like in Kansas?
Okay. Well, could I finish just what I was saying? It is actually establishing the protection of making laws to regulate the murder of the children in the womb, to make laws of how, when, where, and what circumstances you can do it. And so, but if we vote no, then we'll have the opportunity to put forward a bill of abolition, to abolish abortion as murder in the state of Kansas to protect these children. But the value of the both amendment itself does not give abolition as an option. It just regulates.
So today we're here in favor of abolishing abortion.
Yes,
That's what we're here today.
yes, ma'am.
Abortion like what it is.
Treating it as God would have us to treat it, as murder.
Because he says, thou shalt love our neighbor.
Okay.
That's loving our neighbors as ourselves.
All right.
Can you explain more on the Holocaust part?
Sure. Well, every day in our country, we murder over 3,000 little children in the womb. That's 2 every minute of every day.
That's just surgically.
In 10 minutes, 20 children are slain. And it's a Holocaust allowed by our government. We actually have a society that has said certain people can't be slain. And the U.S. Supreme Court has given their opinion, not law, courts don't do that, but has given their opinion that you can murder some people, but they don't have the authority for that. Only God has the authority to say when life should be taken away. He said to do no violence to the stranger, the fatherless, the widow, neither shed innocent blood. Those who are vulnerable, those who are innocent, should be defended, not destroyed. And yet, like the Supreme Court in Germany, who said that Jews were not people under the law and could be eliminated, the U.S. Supreme Court in 1973, over 49 years ago now, said that preborn people are not persons under the law and can be eliminated. And so we have lived in a Holocaust in the United States that has slain over 65 million American preborn children. Well over that. That's over 10 times as many as Hitler slaughtered.
So this is like just as bad as the Holocaust?
In magnitude, it has killed many more people.
And one way that it's much worse, just one way that this Holocaust, our American Holocaust, is worse than Nazi Germany, is that what would happen if you spoke against the Nazis' genocide back then? You'd be most likely caught, put in a concentration camp, worked to death, or executed, murdered like what happened to Dietrich Bonhoeffer. In America, what happens if you speak out like we're doing today? Nothing. You have the freedom. We have our Constitution, First Amendment, that protects our right to do this. But yeah, most Christians will do nothing about it.
So because we have more ability to speak out, more freedom, then there is more responsibility on us. Back then, we look back and we say, well, that was a shame on the people who did nothing against that evil. But they had more excuse than we do.
we're more
So-
guilty.
We're on the wrong side of history if we're just allowing it to happen.
It makes us much more guilty than they were in Nazi Germany.
What would you say if, let's say the baby is putting the woman's life in danger? What would you say in that situation?
Well, that is a serious situation, and the thing is that in the majority of those cases, and that is a very slight amount of abortions, of pregnancies have that situation, but you should never murder somebody in order to save someone else. What you do is, and this is by and large the regular practice, is if a woman is in danger like that, in imminent danger of death, then what they do is they have a C-section. They have the baby come out. And then the mom is okay and the baby is okay. You try to help both because they're both patients. And if you're doing triage and one doesn't survive, that's a tragedy. But it isn't murder. But if you intentionally slay one person so that another person can live, then you are not, it's not just a tragedy, that's treachery. That's not doing no harm, which is what physicians are supposed to swear to. And that is murdering an innocent child. And so you try to help both, and then you trust the Lord because He is God. That's a good question.
Thank you. All right.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
all we needed. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Yes,
talking with
yes,
us.
ma'am.
God bless y'all.